Hello guys, welcome to Vijay's Programming and welcome to this tutorial Spring and Hibernate Basics and Advanced number 28. In this tutorial, we are going to learn about scope annotation. Okay, without discussing the theory, we just dive into Eclipse and we just write some code. Okay, so the very first thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a class. Okay, select this com.love2code.spring demo. This is the package name. Right click, highlight new, select class. The name of the class we are going to give, that is scope annotation driver. Scope annotation driver. You don't need to give the .java extension, that is done automatically internally by Eclipse. And another thing you need to do is you need to click on this checkbox so that we can have the main method in our class. After that, you just hit the finish button. I'm just maximizing this window and removing the auto generated comment and just formatting the code for my convenience. Okay, now the very first thing what we are going to do is to load bean configuration XML file. So in the previous tutorial, we have seen that how we can load the Spring configuration file. So I'm just writing the comment initially, that is load bean configuration XML file. Load bean configuration XML file. How we can load the bean configuration XML file? We have a class for that, that is class path XML application context. That is one of the Spring framework class. Class path XML application context. I'm giving the variable name as CPXAC. That means the first character of each word of this class name, okay, is equal to new class path XML application context here we are supplying our configuration file, the name of our development, the configuration file for our development, that is application context.xml. Application context.xml. So why we are getting this red mark? It is because we did not import the class from the appropriate package. To import this class from the appropriate package, we need to just highlight this error and from the suggestion that Eclipse will give it to us, that is the first suggestion, it is to import. Okay, we need to select that. We need to import this class from the appropriate package. Okay, the first step we have done. What is the second step? Okay, that is to get the bean from the Spring container. Get the bean from the Spring container. How we can get the bean from the Spring container? We have one coach interface. Okay, coach space the variable name I'm going to give as junior coach is equal to whatever the variable we have created while we are creating an object for this class path XML application context. The same variable name I'm using it here. By using that variable, I'm going to call a method on this. Okay, I'm going to call a method on this reference variable. If you press dot, Eclipse will be suggesting us the the related method that we can use along with this variable. Here I want to use get bean method. Okay, this is the method to get the bean. Okay, so which bean I want to get? That is tennis coach. Tennis coach, comma. So then we are supplying interface name, that is coach.class. And please don't confuse with the dot class extension that for every file, whether it is interface or class, okay, the javac command will be generating dot class files for whether it is class or interface. Okay, so I'm supplying coach dot class, that is the name of the interface. Coach is the name of the interface. I'm just closing it with the semicolon. In Java, every statement must be ended with a semicolon. Okay, so the next thing what I'm going to do is, once again I'm going to get the bean from the Spring container. Okay, I'm making the second request to the Spring container. Once again, coach, here I'm using senior coach, okay, is equal to cpxac dot uh, get bean. Once again I'm trying to get the tennis coach bean. Tennis coach comma coach dot class. I'm just ending it with the semicolon. Okay, we have done two steps, that is load the load bean configuration XML file and get the bean from the Spring container. What is the third step? That is to verify our results. Verify our results by using print statements. Here we are going to have so many system.out.println statements. So please carefully observe to avoid getting confused. The very first print statement what we are going to have, that is we are going to check whether junior coach and senior coach are pointing to the same memory location. Whether junior coach and senior coach are pointing to the same memory location. Whether junior coach and senior coach are pointing to the same memory location. Means what we are going to find out, that is whether these two variables are pointing to the same object or not. That is what it is basically. After that, I'm just giving the escape character, that is to print in the next line. Okay, um, \n. It is the escape sequence or escape character. So if I give this, whatever the text or whatever the code we type for this statement, it will be appearing in the next line. If you just enter, we need to actually get the automatic concatenation code, that is plus and within and plus, as well as one pair of double quote. Um, if you just what you do is after immediately \n, place the cursor and press enter. Now, as you can see, the Eclipse has generated this code for us. Okay, concatenation and with the a pair of this double quote. So this ensures that this content or belong to this same statement. Okay, so in other words, or they both share the same object reference, or they both share the same object reference. Okay, that is the question that we are verifying it. So how we can find out? Okay, so instead of just closing it here itself, so I'm just having this boolean expression. Okay, that is I'm comparing these two references. Okay, that is junior coach double equals to senior coach. We need to give the concatenation. Okay, so what it does, it will be resulting as the boolean expression, whether it is true or false. Okay, that we will get. So by default it is comparing the memory location. Okay, junior coach and senior coach, both are comparing the references. Okay, it is not comparing the content. Okay, by default it is comparing the references. So then I'm just adding some text, like something like for our understanding. I'm just keeping one statement like okay, but can you print the address of locations? Okay, um, can you print the address of locations? Okay, after that I'm just giving the escape sequence, escape character, that is \n, to print the content in the next line. Okay, so when we use the next println statement, this we will be getting a new line. Okay, one new line has been added. Okay, one blank line will be added, so that our readability will be going to improve. So here I'm just adding okay, but here one escape character, so that it will come to the next line. Okay, okay, that is one statement. So the next statement, that is we just print the memory locations of this junior coach and senior coach. Okay, so what is the text? Okay, okay, junior coach and the memory location, which I'm pointing to is, which I'm pointing to is so here as well you just need to supply the variable, okay, that is junior coach. Okay, after that we are including one escape character. See, always the escape character or \n, you should be giving it in this string, okay, that is within the double quote. So now the next it is we are going to print the memory location for senior coach, SYSO. I'm just changing the text that okay, um, senior coach and the memory location which I'm pointing to is. So here as well you need to supply the variable name that is senior coach. Then I'm just supplying the escape character to get a new line. Okay, so then what we are going to do next, we did find out the location for the both, that is junior coach and senior coach. The next thing we will be giving another test. Okay, we are going to give another test, system.out.println, just a text that is okay, another test. What is that test? That is, let's find out whether the tennis coach is annotated with singleton. Let's find out that let's find out whether the tennis coach is annotated with singleton. Whether this tennis coach is annotated with the singleton scope or not. Okay, or it might be a prototype as well. Okay, that is what we are finding it out. Prototype. Let's find out whether the tennis coach is annotated with the singleton or prototype scope. Prototype scope. And the next statement, okay, and the next statement will the next print statement, okay, the next print statement will determine that. How we can do that, right? So here you just need to give the escape character. Otherwise it will be printing it in the same line, so that we need to scroll to the right. Okay, so to avoid that, I'm giving this escape character to get the content in the next line. So what we are going to develop the next code, that is we are going to compare. Okay, so here we are having some if condition. If junior coach double equals to senior coach. Okay, what we need to print? SYSO control space. So what is the text? That is okay, VR means junior and senior coach. Junior coach and senior coach, both are pointing to the same memory location, same memory location. What that means? That means tennis coach has tennis coach has default or singleton, default or singleton scope, default or singleton scope declared on top of it. By default it is of the singleton. Okay, if you are not giving anything, the scope will be of singleton. If both the references are pointing to the same object, okay, so it will be printing that OKR both pointing to the same memory location. That means tennis coach has default or singleton scope declared on top of it. What that means is the reference, okay, the object reference will be shared to both of these reference variables. Okay, both will be pointing to the same memory location. Okay, so there won't be any new object. For the same object, both these junior coach and the senior coach will be pointing. Okay, what else if not? That is what we are describing it in the else. Why don't we just copy this entire text and make some modification to this? Just copying this, just paste it. Okay, what else if they are not? Okay, if they are not pointing to the same object, or if they are pointing to the different object. Okay, okay, we are junior coach and the senior coach, both are pointing to the different memory locations. Different memory locations. That means tennis coach has prototype. Tennis coach has prototype. Okay, prototype scope declared on top of it, right? So that means if you are giving the prototype scope for every call, for every request for the same bean, okay, for every request for the same bean will be generating a new object, okay. So that is what a prototype scope. After that, we are just closing the context. That is, we are just releasing the resources that is held by the Spring container. Release the resources held by the Spring container. We can do that. That is by using the reference variable of this class, that is class path XML application context, that has been created when we are creating an object for that class. Dot close, okay, to close the context, or to close the Spring container, okay. So if any of the resources or that is being held by this any of the implementations, it will be releasing those resources. I think we have done for this scope annotation driver. The next thing what we need to do is we need to move to the tennis coach. Tennis coach. I'm just maximizing it, and here on top of this class tennis coach, I'm giving the annotation that is at the rate scope, scope, and here I'll just give singleton. Or why don't we just leave it as it is, because whether if you give it or not, by default it is of singleton, right? So come to the driver class and right click and run as Java application, and what is the result we are seeing? That is for by default, okay, for the default scope. I'm just maximizing this console. Whether junior and senior coach are pointing to the same memory location, or they both share the same object reference. Okay, there is a typo. Let me fix that. Okay, and just give some space so that we can read. The same. Okay, let's run it once again. Run as a Java application. So are they pointing to the same object? Yes, that is what we are getting true. Okay, so here we have performed the Boolean expression. Okay, the result of that expression, it is true. That means both the references are pointing to the same object. But can you print the address of the locations? Okay, I'm junior coach. Okay, and the memory location which I'm pointing to is here. You can find out that whether these two references are pointing to the same object or not. That is by using this memory location. Okay, the address or the hash code, that is class name at the rate some code. Okay, that is in hexadecimal format. com.love2code.springdemo, that is the package name, and tennis coach is the name of the class, and at the rate, this is the some code that represents the memory in which this object is residing. As you can see, both the reference address are same. That means both the references are pointing to the same object, right? So there won't be any new object or generating for more than one request for the same bean. That is, we are requesting for the bean two times for tennis coach. Okay, so for every request, it is just it is just a shared it is just a shared reference variable, and it is not going to create a new object. Okay, so that is what we are calling it as the default scope or singleton scope. If you are giving singleton as well, we will be getting the same output. It is for default or singleton scope. Okay, another test. Let's find out whether the tennis coach is annotated with singleton or prototype scope, and the next print statement will determine that. Okay, so the next print statement what we are getting is, okay, we are junior coach and a senior coach, both are pointing to the same memory location. That means tennis coach has default or singleton scope declared on top of it. Okay, in this case, there is no scope has been declared on top of this tennis coach. That means it is of default scope. So I'm just fixing that. For readability purpose, I'm just giving a space after means and after or. Okay, in the last SOP, after or and after means. Save it. Okay, let's come back to this tennis coach. And for the default scope, we have got that output. Okay, so the default scope, it is of the singleton scope. Okay, so now explicitly we can give by using @scope annotation. Within the double quote, I'm giving singleton. Save it. Come back to our driver class. Right click, run as Java application. Let me show it once again. I have just given, or I have just declared this scope annotation on top of this tennis coach class, and the scope what is supplying, that is of singleton. Okay, singleton, whether if I give it or not this statement. Okay, if I don't give this statement, it comes under default scope, that is singleton. Okay, so now we are giving it we are giving it explicitly. We are supplying explicitly that this scope of this bean is of singleton. Come to the driver class and right click and run as Java application. So we will get the same output. As you can see here, um, are they both share the same object reference? Yes, true. Okay, but can you print the memory address locations? So here, as you can see here, CA263C2, same thing for the senior coach as well. Both junior coach and senior coach are having the same memory locations. That means both the references are pointing to the same object. Okay, and as you can see from our previous execution, we are getting some different code. Okay, it need not to be the same memory address. Okay, that depends on the JVM. Okay, that completely depends on the JVM. We cannot predict this memory. It is not simple as it is in C. Okay, it is difficult to find out the memory address. What exactly it will be generating. So we don't need to um, get confused about that, or we don't need to get any of the we don't need to get get deep into that. Okay, it is just code that has been generated by the JVM. So at the last print statement, what we are getting that okay, we are junior coach and senior coach, both are pointing to the same memory location. That means tennis coach has a default or singleton scope declared on top of it. So I think our the the output whatever we are getting, that is what we are expected. But here I have given this space that's not working here, right? So let me give that space here. Okay, come back to the tennis coach.java. Here in this case, I'm giving the prototype. Save it and come back to the scope annotation driver.java. I'm giving the scope as prototype. What happens in this scope? What is the result? Okay, earlier we had the singleton, and before that we did not have anything, that is of the default scope. Now we have this prototype scope declared on top of this class, that is tennis coach. So come back to this main driver class, right click and run as Java application. So what is the result we are going to get here? So here we need to concentrate. We need to observe carefully that the output will be different whether junior coach and senior coach are pointing to the same memory location or they both share the same object reference. Now, as you can see here, we are getting the false. That means for every request that has been made to the Spring container for the same bean, okay, that is resulting. That means a new object means a new object of that bean has been created. So that means these two variables are pointing to different memory locations or different objects. Okay, so okay, but can you print the address of the locations? So, okay, I'm junior coach, and the memory location which I'm pointing to is, as you can see here, the code, the memory address, that is for the junior coach is different and for the senior coach is different. Both are different codes, or both are from the different memory locations, or both are pointing to the different memory locations, or both are pointing to different objects in the Spring container. So next, another test is there. Let's find out whether the tennis coach is annotated with the singleton or prototype scope. And the next print statement will determine that. So we will get the else block now. Okay. Earlier we used to get the if block itself, but in this case we will get the else. We will get the print statement from the else block. What does it state? That is, okay, we are junior coach and senior coach. Both are pointing to the different memory locations. That means tennis coach has prototype scope declared on top of it. That is what we have done, right? On top of the tennis coach, we have declared the scope, or we have supplied the scope as prototype. What happens in case of prototype? That means it will be creating a new object for every request that has been made for the same bean in the Spring container. That is why we are getting the different address here. That means these two are pointing to the different objects. So the both references are pointing to the different object. And what is that type? The same type. Okay, it is of no different type. It is pointing to the same type, that is tennis coach. Okay, but the new object, okay, the different objects, same same type, and that is tennis coach, but that is different object. Okay, so when we are um, requesting to the Spring container that to get the bean once again from the Spring container. So it is, it is generating a new object for the request whenever we request for the same bean second time. Whenever we request the same bean for the second time. Okay, so that is what about the prototype. Okay, and we have seen in this tutorial that what is the scope annotation, and what is the case if we don't give the scope annotation, right? If what is the case if we don't give the scope annotation, um, and as well what is the case if we give the scope annotation and supplying the singleton, and the another case is um, what what is the case that if we supply the prototype scope. Okay, so that we have seen this, that we have seen in this tutorial. Okay, so that's it for this tutorial, guys. So thanks for watching, and we will continue the next concept in the next tutorial. Thanks.